Hey everybody, it's your boy Tool, back with another video. And before we get into the video, I just want to give a big shout out to today's sponsor, you. Over the past few months since I've been looking at the channel, I haven't posted a spectacular Spider-Man video in quite some time, but the reviews have actually popped off. This is insane. This is crazy. I'd never expected this sort of turnout for these reviews. Granted, most of you are lurkers, and that is totally fine with me, but I really love the support. I really appreciate it. The watch time, the subscribers, the views, all of it. I really appreciate it. You guys are my sponsor, and I wouldn't be doing this without you, and I'm very appreciative. So, with that being said, let's just jump right in, and I'll stop gushing. Today's episode is episode 15. It's titled Destructive Testing. It was directed by Kevin Altieri. I think I said that right. And it was written by Matt Wayne. Now, this episode is actually pretty beefy, or at least when I was watching it, it felt beefy, but we'll see how it goes. Episode starts off what appear to be Africa, and some hunters are about to snipe some rhinos. That is, until somebody named Kravinoff comes in and stops them. The hunter or ranger walks up and he insists that the rhinos must be put down, and they're very, they're ravenous. Kravinoff snaps the rifle in half and he says that these rhinos can't be saved. Turns out they were only using tranq darts, but they deemed it ineffective. Kravinoff says he doesn't need tranq darts to take down his prey. He rips off his shirt and he begins taking on the rhino, an actual rhino and not the rhino. The rhino starts to run towards the cliff, but Kravinoff says, "Oh, you don't," and he tells the rhino, "Yeah, you need to take a nap, bud." And he quickly just knocks the rhino down, and he goes to sleep from a chokehold. After the takedown, a lion sneaks up on Kravinoff and attacks him, but it turns out it's just his pet lion, and it's owned by Calypso. I think the lion's name is Galutido or something like that. I just call him the lion. I'm not gonna try to type that out. Not gonna bother trying to learn the spelling because I don't know if we'll see that line again. But anyways. So after that, Calypso shows up, and she's like, "Oh, that was so great." And Kraven's like, "Yeah, it was nothing. It was too wheezy." But Calypso's like, "Well, don't worry, babe, because I got some papers here for you, and it looks like in New York, we've got some foes for you to hunt." But yeah, so from their brief interaction, it appears that her and him are lovers, and in the comics, Calypso is usually either teaming up with Kraven, she's against Spider-Man normally, and usually Kraven's lover. Kravinoff claims that there is no creature that has the strength or the speed such as Spider-Man, and that he is worthy of his skills. They will head to New York immediately to hunt him down. And then the episode starts. So right away, I just want to point out that this is very, very similar to the way that they set up the Kraven arc in the Spider-Man 2 game. So I thought that was, there's only so many ways you can set up Kraven. I wanted to pull up that parallel there. So I just want to make that comparison. We're taken down to Midtown High, where it looks like the gang is taking a test. Pete finishes early. He runs into Kenny, and they're talking to Rand. And they ask, "Hey, is Flash done yet? Because we've got to go to practice." And as he's walking around, Gwen finishes her test, and she comes out. Peter starts gushing about how he needs to tell Gwen how he feels. And he's about to tell her, but then instead of telling her, he says that he's interning over at ESU again. He wants to get over to ESU with her so that they can get on the bus and they can have a private convo. But the moment is quickly soured when Liz shows up and she starts hugging him. And she's just raving because she's going to pass that test. She aced it, and all because of him. And she kisses him on the cheek. He says he's just glad to help, but Gwen walks off and she's just not impressed. Peter rushes over to the ESU, and as we quickly notice, Gwen is not there with him. But Gwen is already there. She's already at ESU. She just didn't go with him. So she's cleaning the spider glass case, and Peter's hand goes up against the glass where some web was, which is haha because he's Spider-Man, get it? Pete's being awkward, saying, "Hey, you didn't wait for me. What the heck?" And Gwen's like, "Yeah, well, I didn't think your star pupil could detach from you, so I didn't even bother." So before Pete can even get a word out, Dr. Connors comes by to introduce Eddie's replacement, Deborah. Pete tries to enter himself, but Deb walks off. She's not impressed. And Connors was like, "I think she likes the name Deborah, not Deb." Eddie is brought up naturally, and Peter just has this like wild, shocked look on his face. And they ask if he's heard from Eddie, and Gwen says, "Yeah, I haven't seen him since the Thanksgiving parade before that monster showed up and almost killed me." Pete's demeanor changes very serious, and he claims that he has no idea where Eddie is. He wishes that he did. Another new face, well, to Peter, not to us, enters the room. It's Dr. Miles Warren. Connors introduces him, so we've got 2 new friendly faces, at least in this episode. Well, maybe 3, but we'll keep going. Warren says that the work that Connors has done with the lizard DNA meshes perfectly with his work on the mammalian DNA. He also says that the formula must be electrolyzed to increase potency. Peter does not look impressed by this at all, and nor should he be, and neither does Dr. Connors. Before Warren can go on, Connors closes his laptop, saying that the project was a dead end. Miles says, "Okay, well, I'll drop it if you insist," but he has this intrigued look on his face, knowing that, he's a scientist, this dude's not going to give up. Spidey is swinging around, gushing about Liz. I keep saying the word gushing. What's up with that? A lot of gushing today's episode. Spidey's swinging around, gushing about Liz, and just Liz and Gwen. Oh, man, they're both all into me. Wow, what do I do? It's such a great feeling, right? Can't relate, but, Kravinoff is then behind the camera, and he's hunting for Spidey. He's already here in New York, and he's got his eye on Spidey. And, Peter's just minding his own business, swinging around, doing what Spider-Man does. And Kraven's hunt begins. But does he truly know what he's in for? Kraven tries to shoot an arrow at Spidey. Spidey unwillingly knows he doesn't know what's going on here. Dodges the arrow, and now he's officially alerted to Kraven's presence, and he swings down the building and asks, where did you come from? Kraven says that he come from Russia, born in Africa, and Spidey jokes that he had 2 mothers and still is so ill-behaved. They begin to fight, but as they're fighting, Spidey asks in a chokehold what this game is, and Kraven's like, well, the game is to take down the prey, and usually he does it with very quiet dignity. And Spidey's like, quiet? Dignity? Prey? You don't know me at all, pal. As we're swinging around, they crash into a window of someone's office with a pretty, well, not a pretty girl, but I'm sure she's pretty, I don't know. But a girl with a pretty funny spit take. She's like drinking some coffee or something, and as they crash in the window, she has, a funny spit take. Yeah, I just said that. Anyways, Kraven yells that he cannot be shaken away that easily. Spidey scoffs like, oh, you can't be shaken away? Okay. And then he just literally smacks him against the building and shakes him off. And Kraven is just very excited that a beast of this stature has escaped his grasp for the very first time. Spidey's like, I see the confusion, he says. I'm not a beast. Get this, a Spider-Man. Kraven gets free and he throws a boomerang where Spidey gets a little too cocky for his britches, making it where he's able to get a one-up on Spider-Man, and he ties him up. And Spidey's like, all right, point for you. And before he can get out, Kraven's about to shoot a poison dart at our friendly neighborhood boy, but he escapes just in time, and they begin fighting again. Spidey gets a little ticked off. It's like, when it comes to the superhero scene, you're out of your league. Where he then webs Kraven up to a light pole, and that pretty much ends the fight. Calypso shows up later in her limo and asks if Kraven needs any help. And he's like, I didn't call you. I don't need your help, but it's not over. And he takes a piece of Spider-Man's cloth from his suit from earlier, and he asks his pet lion to track the scent. Him and his lion are then taken across the city, downtown, and even at the Daily Bugle, where J. Jonah Jameson is seen telling them pretty much to get out, or he's just screaming and yelling. Who knows what he's actually saying, but I just like to make that assumption. We transition back over to ESU, where it appears that Warren is running tests anyway, as we earlier predicted. He claims that his tests are running far as they can go. Is that a test subject? Kraven arrives at ESU with his lion, and they jump down, and they're about to approach Warren. And I just want to put in a quick note that Warren is not even afraid of Kraven. He's not even afraid that a freaking lion is in his lab about to eat him. This dude has to be, I don't know. We'll keep going. We'll see what happens. When asked if the lion is his, Kraven says that the lion cannot be owned by a man or a thing. He notices the spiders in the cage, and he says, those don't exist in the natural habitat. And Warren's like, well, they're super genetic spiders breeded from multiple species. Kraven is just astounded by this, and he comes to the realization that Warren created the Spider-Man. Warren does not hesitate to take that claim, and he's like, yeah, I did. I created the Spider-Man. That was me. And Kraven's like, well, the only reason I got beat is because of those powers, and I want my own. And Warren's like, Spider-Man paid handsomely for his. And at this point, we know that Warren is lying through his teeth. He didn't create Spider-Man. It was a complete accident, as we all know. And Kraven's like, well, why should I pay for what I can take? And he snaps at his lion. And Warren, still not afraid, basically says that Kraven has no idea what he's going to do to him, and that it aligns with his self-interest for him to succeed. We're back down to Midtown High, where the football game is happening, and Peter just, he's kind of being a little horn dog here, and he's just like, man, I love spectator sports. And he brags about how he got a new camera with his advance from the Bugle. Liz hugs Pete, and Gwen is seen watching this, albeit she is not happy about Liz hugging Pete at all, and she shouldn't be. They're hyped for the football game, and the game starts. Well, it's been going on. It's like they got the last 30 seconds of the game. They get some good passes in as the clock is running, and it looks like they're about to win the game, but Flash gets hurt in the process. But the good news is that at the very end, they do win the state. They win the game, and they win the state championship. Back at ESU Lab, half a payment is being exchanged for the mutagen compound, or that's what Warren calls it, whatever his serum is that he's made mixed with Dr. Connor's experiment. Kraven says that here's half the payment, and you'll get the rest after I take down Spider-Man. The lion approaches, and it's shown that Warren carries a gun on him. Like the lion gets really close to him, and he's backing up, and he's got a gun in the back of his pocket. Smart man. I gotta point that out. The serum is injected into Kraven, where he sits there, he injects it, and it's really quick, and then he's like, wait a minute, I don't feel anything at all. And he gets very upset, and he throws the doctor across the room. He's like, you're in cahoots with Spider-Man. I can smell him all over the lab. And Warren is just intrigued by this. He's like, what do you mean? You can smell him? What are you talking about? Before that convo can even be continued or elaborated on, Kraven starts to transform into some sort of werebeast, where his own lion is seen scared and starts to back away. Kraven's now fully transformed, and Warren's like, well, I believe you owe me an apology. And I'm amazed at this guy. This guy is not scared of anything. He doesn't even know what's going to happen to Kraven, and he's just like, yep, Warren's experiment worked. I'm a god. So you should be, bow down your feet to me. Get down and kiss my feet and make me a sandwich or something. I don't know, dude. The dude's crazy, right? But yeah, he's a psychopath. No fear in this man whatsoever. Wasn't afraid of the lion, and now he's not afraid of this lion monster werebeast thing that Kraven's turned himself into. This super lion creature. But yeah, he's like, you owe me an apology, and he's like, Mr. Kravinoff, and Kraven's like, call me Kraven. Kraven the Hunter. Spidey is swinging around the snow, pondering about bad things that happen to Flash, and he's like, well, I want bad things to happen to Flash, but not that bad. And he's also, stressing about Gwen and Liz once again. We don't dwell too deep into this before Kraven slashes up our boy, and they start to fight again. And he comes at him quick. Kraven does not take his time. He quickly bests Spider-Man with a few of his newfound powers and tricks. Spider-Man claims that he's like, oh, wait a minute. This that Kravinoff, that's you? And he's like, we go by Kraven now. And Spider-Man's like, all right, well, this isn't my first rodeo with genetic experiments. Liz calls during the fight, claiming that, she needs Peter while Flash is in the hospital. And Spidey's like, well, I'm kind of in the middle of something here. And he's running away from Kraven. But he's like, I'll be there as soon as I can. And they're fighting, they're going back and forth. Most of it is Kraven beating the crap out of Spidey, and it's actually not really shown if the newfound powers that Kraven has are actually better than Spider-Man. He's just one-upping him left and right. Cause he can get through his webs. He's faster than Spider-Man. So at best, the only way that Spidey can beat him is to outsmart him, which, as we know, Kraven's obviously not the brightest guy ever. I'm not saying he's dumb. He's pretty smart, right? But he's not a super genius or anything. I mean, who is, right? But anyways, Peter says he'll be there as soon as he can. They move the fight to the city where destruction is just happening everywhere. They damage a bus, they damage some cars, and I'm pretty sure I saw like a fire. Like, this is Batman level damage, you know what I mean? They manage to land at the park. Spidey's in some trees where Kraven isn't to be seen, and he makes a comment. He's like, kitty, 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 kitty. And he's like, I wish I was playing hide and seek with Black Cat. And I'm like, God dang, our boy Spidey is just feeling very sensual this episode. He's just very... He's being a dirty boy this episode. I'm not sure if I like that, but you know what? Whatever. It is what it is, you know? Spidey starts webbing up all around the park, and he's creating webs. He creates like this web block or box or something, try to trap Kraven, but that doesn't work. And then he starts going up a tree where he's like shooting webs left and right. And then eventually he runs out of those webs, and then Kraven's like, well, now it's over. I'm going to trap you and kill you. And Spidey's like, yeah, look around you, bud. And then Kraven like looks around, and he's covered in webs. Like, there's webbing all over him. And Spidey just wails on him, just beats the living daylights out of him. And Spidey's like, man, there's only one number one genetic misfit, and that's me. Spidey looks away for a brief moment after he knocked out Kraven. And he looks away. This scene is actually really weird. If you go and watch this scene, you'll see that Spider-Man like looks away, and then he turns back again, and Kraven's gone. Like, why did he look away? Was it maybe I miss it? I'll have to go back. But if you figure out why that happens, let me know in the comments. But after that, Kraven's defeated-ish. He's gone, but he's not dead, right? So Pete arrives at the hospital where he's met up with Liz, and Pete is shown to have like a giant black eye. Like, this is a freaking shiner. And Liz sees him. He's like, oh, thank you so much for coming. But she says nothing about this. Doesn't even observe it. Makes no comment about this whatsoever, which I thought was odd editing, but okay. Flash's knee is busted up, and the doctors say, you know, we'll know more when he wakes up, but he should be just fine. Liz leaves Pete's side, and as she's being told this information, she starts to tear up. And our boy does not like this. He just kind of stands there, and he's not smiling. So I would assume that he's kind of jealous. But we'll talk about that here in just a minute. We transition over to Kraven's limo, where he wakes up, and he says, the hunt is not over. And then the planner calls, and he's like, good, because I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about hunting in packs? And then it just transitions to the end of the episode. And that's it. That's the episode. Anyway, I think this is a good episode. A good, very good, solid intro for Kraven. I was expecting something silly, like a lion was gonna attack him, and he's gonna get scratched by that lion, and then that lion scratch was gonna give him superpowers. But that didn't happen. They didn't go the Sony route. I mean, even though this was produced by Sony, this isn't a Sony Films Division produced movie where it's goofy, right? So I appreciate that they actually went the science route like they do in all of these episodes of this show. So I appreciate that. One thing I forgot to point out is that at the very beginning, where they're looking through the papers of these creatures, and maybe I mentioned this, I can't remember, but on the back of one of the pieces of paper that Kraven's looking at, there's actually a picture of the actual rhino. And he's like, oh man, this is exciting. So it makes you wonder, like, was Rhino on his radar first before Spider-Man? But then he just like jumped because Spider-Man was like in there, and he's like, oh, Spider-Man's the best. I gotta go after him first, and then maybe I'll go down and take down the others. Who knows? But I thought that was a nice little Easter egg. The only thing I want to say here is that I feel like, you know, Peter, as we've seen with him in the symbiote, he can be pretty selfish, but in this episode, he was kind of a jerk. I'm not gonna lie, like, he's just kind of being a dirty boy with his camera. He's like, oh man, Liz and Gwen are so into me. What do I do? My life is so hard, and it's just, you know, he's not, as per usual, he's not being very considerate of other people's feelings, and he needs to just tell Liz, like, hey, I'm into Gwen, I'm not into you, and I'm sure we'll get to that point at some point. And that'll get dealt with. I think there was huge foreshadowing to that at the very end where Liz is like crying over Flash and not even paying attention to Peter's black eye. Like, she just doesn't care. She doesn't care about Peter that much. She cares about Flash more. And I think Peter is actually starting to realize this. Like, okay, because, you know, Peter's being a little selfish, but he's, you know, this is what some guys do this, right? They're gonna choose the girl if they're insecure. They're gonna choose the girl that they. Oh, this one's paying attention to me. I'm gonna pay attention to her. Oh, this girl's paying attention to me. Okay, I'm gonna pay attention. You know what I mean? Like, which one's going to give him the love that he's looking for? You know what I mean? I think attention might be the wrong word. Might be love. He's looking for love, and he's trying to figure out which girl is going to give him the love that he wants, and make sure that love is here to stay, and not just be some sort of. And I don't even think it's this calculated. It's gonna be just be my own projection onto the situation. But Peter's basically trying to figure out, okay, is Liz gonna love me or is Gwen gonna love me? And we obviously know that it's gonna be Gwen, but we just have to get our boy to that point, over the finish line, and get to that touchdown. No pun intended. But yeah, I feel like overall it was a very solid episode, very good episode. I'm very curious to see what the planner has next. And my dog is barking, so he wants me to wrap this up. So anyways, that's going to be it for me. And thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. If you can, please give this video a like and a subscribe if you made it this far in the video. And throw a comment in there. Just put Kraven in the comments if you made it this far. If you feel like helping your boy out, with the algorithm and all that stuff. So anyway, once again, thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And remember, with great power comes great responsibility. I'm Dual Dyer, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.